Maggie and Negan just flipped the script on us, and we're here for it. We're breaking down the Dead City Season 3 premiere, those new Manhattan characters, whether we trust Renata, and where this season is actually headed. Let's get into it. Maggie and Negan were so refreshing this episode.
It starts and you almost think they're going to be in the exact same place. They're still angry with each other. This time, actually, Negan angry with Maggie, which is quite different than what we've seen on Dead City or The Walking Dead. But they quickly kind of call a truce, and we see a lighthearted Maggie and Negan.
Yeah, and I want to go back to that moment when they were fighting, and Negan was like ripping into Maggie to the point that Maggie apologized to him, which I never thought I would have seen.
This really seemed like the way to bridge that gap. I mean, having her kind of feel the guilt for Ginny's death and really feeling responsible because she stabbed Negan, and having that apology almost makes them feel like they're on level-ish ground. Obviously, it's never gonna be level because he did kill Glenn, but it is nice to see that she feels as though maybe they can move forward now.
Yeah. And I think one of the most like jarring images was when she handed him Lucille. Like, of all the things, like that was what took away Glenn from her.
It's really crazy to see, and I almost wish that they had focused on it more. We see her walking down the hallway with it, which is crazy on its own. But then to hand it to Negan and basically say, like, this is the you we want to see, it's never going to feel normal to see. But it is nice to, even when they're arguing over the grave and she says, stab me, you have 10 seconds. He's smiling. Like, it's just such a different relationship. And we see Renata comment, you guys seem like brothers and sisters. You sure fight like one. It is cool to kind of see that change in dynamic that, they're obviously comfortable. They know each other very well. The trust might not be there yet, but at least they feel like they're on the same team a little bit.
Yeah, and it's almost like that quote, the devil you know is better than the one that you don't.
Yes.
And then it does kind of tie into a little bit of that conflict or that change in dynamic with Hershel and Maggie, where he commented, like, I asked you to kill him and you didn't. And by the end of their conversation, they agreed to, let's try to make the best of it. Like, let's try to grow and have a future. So it'll be interesting when he starts to see that they're actually a little bit more on a truce and working together. Like, how is Hershel going to react to that?
Because Hershel really went through his own journey as well, where he thought he wanted to work with the Dama. At least this is what he says in the episode. And then realizes that, she wants him to kill his own mom. And while he was down to be the rebellious teen and kind of upset her or anger her, he's not trying to kill her. So I think that might help him have a little bit more understanding towards Maggie and why she would want to move on and not sit in that anger and in that revenge the whole time. We also saw him talking with Renata about choosing the light instead. And so a lot of this episode, to me, felt like a fix-it to a lot of the major problems Dead City has had, where it has just felt really dark emotionally and really weighed down by trauma. And this feels like a fresh group where they really spent the whole episode infusing hope across the board.
Speaking of a new leaf, I think we have to talk about all the new characters that we were introduced to this episode. And so far, I'm loving them.
They have a lighter tone themselves, whether it's comedic or hopeful. We start with the two guys that are pinning the Wanted Dead or Alive poster. And we see a little bit at the end, we see them with the Wanted poster wrapped around his leg. Seems to be Dama's lackeys. And they really seem to be, yes, they're probably going to be the bad guys, but they're also funny.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, very Wet Bandit style, for
yes.
sure. And the other one that I really loved was the barkeeper, Willard. So he had been in that same building, tending to the bar, not really having to go out, and he found a unique way to have a sustainable lifestyle A gross one at that, I'll say, but literally showing Negan that, like, okay, so here's the dead body, it turns into maggots, and you feed the maggots to the frogs, and the frogs to the roosters, and it goes up a whole chain, like, so well thought out.
It's cool how we always see these characters who, I mean, Maggie and Negan have traveled so far, and yet we always come across these characters that have never left since the before times. And I just think it's really cool to see how people survive exactly where they are without moving, because our characters have crossed continents, crossed the country and back again. So it is really cool to see someone who has stayed in one place, even if socially he might have had to resort to treating the walkers like friends, which is again something we've seen across so many characters we've met up with. Even Michonne was well known for removing the teeth and walking with, or the mouth, and walking with walkers as well. So I love to see these tactics that they take, and I'm really excited to see his relationship with Negan, who seems to, you know, love his personality and love the weird.
Yeah, Negan was looking at him like just so like, you are so interesting. Yeah. Like he couldn't get enough of him. I'm sure, just having seen the preview, I know he is going to get annoyed with him eventually, but I really like the dynamic so far, and I think the group is going to learn a lot, because there was another talk throughout this episode about the medical training. And when you're building a lasting community, it's like food, it's power, it's medical training, like it's all those things. Like soon they're going to be talking about who's going to be the teacher, right? Like,
and I think Renata and her group in general was a really refreshing take that Dead City needed. It's something that Daryl Dixon's show has had, where, you know, in Daryl Dixon, when they're in France, there's that underground club scene, and when they're in Spain, they're throwing parties and having that sense of community and really that driving motivation to survive. And Dead City didn't really have that. Like, from season 1, it's just been dark after dark after dark, and this one showing them having basically a baby shower, and even once the baby's born, they plug in the stereo and they have a little party. That's what this show needed. This show needed purpose, and not in purpose through revenge, but through a baby and this sense of community, and to just, Maggie thrives in a leadership role, and this is giving her that, I think I could start something here. It needed that.
It 100% needed it. And I really like Renata's character so far. I think she's very brave. She's determined. You can tell she's got some trauma there. The only thing that kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way and gave me a little bit of suspicion was how eager she was at trying to convince Maggie to stay. Like, she was saying something like, you and me. And I remember looking at it like, you just met her. So I wonder if we're going to find out in a backstory, like, was she sent there? Like, is there an underlying reason why she's partnering up with Maggie or having some infatuation with Maggie?
And I think her brother is a kind of interesting case as well, where we saw a lot of that emotional upheaval through the father of the baby that died, and how he wasn't really able to kill him, but also how quickly he wanted to kill the Croat. So we got to see a little bit of his mind, his state of mind, but I'm curious to know more and to know, you know, he's very fiercely protective of his family, clearly. Is he going to be like, well, if we can't save Maggie, oh well, as long as we can protect, you know, my family? Like, are we going to see a case where it comes between choosing either maybe with Hershel or his family, and he'll choose his family or something? So I do think they're setting up good relationships currently, but I'm not so sure that we're not going to see Renata and her brother maybe abandon them in the end or betray them.
There's definitely ulterior motives. We just don't know what they are yet, but it almost felt too good to be true. And I just want to call out, she does have a katana on her. So I know, like, obviously Michonne and Maggie were in great terms when they left off, but, like, what are the odds that we'd meet another character with a katana?
It seems overall like there's definitely some early Walking Dead vibes this episode that we seem to be getting.
So let's talk about the big conflict this season. I think when we reflect on previous seasons, there was a lot going on. Like, there was the Croat, there was the Dama, there was the New Babylon. There was so many different conflicts that I don't think any of the characters or the the big bads got their rightful storytelling.
And Maggie and Negan were always coming in as the lone wolf in a position of very little power, very little control, and trying to protect Hershel or Ginny, which is obviously very difficult to do. So this season, we quickly see them kind of remove some of the power from those other three big bads. So we see the Croat gets bitten, he dies, has a little moment with Negan as well, and they bring him, he wants to go to the Croatian church or in order for his final place to not be in, a cellar, right? But that wraps up one story while also giving Maggie a lot of power and knowledge with the plans of how to make the methane gas into electricity and how to create those again and create new ones. That's a huge source of power for Maggie to have.
Yeah, so it leaves like the remaining conflict or the remaining big bads all kind of focused on Maggie, right? Because we know New Babylon wants to rebuild. They want to put some order. They want to like kind of consolidate the power a little bit. And we know the Dama just wants to dominate. So with that power being the big chess piece here, it kind of focuses everyone on her. And we see a little bit in the preview this season that, there is going to be more communities coming in. There's going to be more people coming to New York. So I don't know that we'll get like a completely new enemy or a completely new conflict, but I think we'll see the final two kind of play out.
Yeah, because they definitely changed the dynamics, right? So the Dama, she says, most of the people died that were following her. And it seems as though, right now it's just the two lackeys that we saw. And so she lost a lot of her power, but she's still going to be fighting to try to get it back, clearly. And New Babylon had a pretty good relationship with Maggie here and there, like definitely seemed to work together at times and hear each other out. With Negan, that's obviously a different potential relationship, but giving Maggie all of this power and this potential to create a community on such a large scale is interesting, and it is fresh and a huge turn from the last couple seasons where it's just felt like, they can't get ahead at all. Maggie's just always coming from behind, and her and Negan were always kind of working with nothing, the bare minimum. And so for them to now have a community, a source of power, a hospital that seems to be, something they can use and turn into, while also a lot of those enemies losing power or dying, gives it a whole new vibe this season, which I'm excited to see how it pays off.
Yeah, I think everyone's very hopeful for what they can build in New York now that things are kind of consolidating a little. Here's what we know. Dead City is not holding back, and we're just getting started. Subscribe so you don't miss a single episode breakdown. We're covering every twist, every theory, every week. Now tell us in the comments, do you trust Renata? And where do you think season 3 is headed? See you on the couch.
Talk to you soon. Bye.